Right, hello and welcome to the Safe versus Bold series. In part one, we will be looking at positions 1 to 10, and we will see how we can apply Magriel's Safe versus Bold criteria to those positions to help us come up with the best play. And Magriel's criteria are not infallible, and there will be some positions which we'll get onto in part two of the series where safe versus bold doesn't work very well, doesn't work well at all, because other things take priority. For example, sometimes we find ourselves in a desperate situation. It's sort of kill or be killed, so we play accordingly, and this sort of overrides any safe versus bold considerations. I've made a new gadget that we can use just for the tutorial here. We can use when we're making our assessments of safe versus bold, and it'll help us to visualize what's going on with when we put all the criteria together to help us make our decision. So we can use the position on screen here as an example. We'll go through Magriel's criteria and see what we've got. Okay, so on the first one, advanced anchor. Do we have an advanced anchor? Well, no, we don't. So that doesn't give us an indication. Do we have more inside points than our opponent? If we do, that would indicate a bold play, and yes, we have one more inside point than our opponent. She has one. She has a 6 point, and we've made our 5 points, so that would indicate a bold play, but it's not. It's a 2 to 1. It's not massive. We'll give it a B for bold play, but we have the option here to add weights according to the size of the difference, if you like. So here we can go between 1 and 3 on the weight. You see here 2 Bs, 3 Bs, 1 B. We'll just give it 1 B because it's not a huge difference, but it does point towards a bold play. Blots in opponent's home board. Well, no, there aren't any. We have no blots in our board either, so there's no indication there. More checkers back than opponent. Well, yes, in a big way. We have 3 back, and she has escaped all of her checkers, so that's the that's the key to this position, really. That would indicate a bold play, but it's big, it's 3 back versus none back, so we'll give it 3 Bs. Are we behind in the race? If we are, that indicates a bold play. As we can see, we are 35 pips behind. That's about 4 rolls. Average dice rolls about 8 pips. We're 4 rolls behind, which is huge. We're going to have to make contact and hit if we're going to win the game. So that indicates bold. We'll give it 3 Bs because it's a big difference. So there's our assessment for each of the criteria with weight added as appropriate, and we can now convert that into a little chart, so we can see everything points towards bold. Well, the ones we've scored point towards bold. We've got behind in the race. More checkers back. And more inside points. Okay, next up we're going to look at a new feature on here, and it's all about preliminary checks. Before we, in a lot of cases, even before we roll the dice, we should be looking and going through these checks in our mind usually, but for the sake of the tutorials, I'm going to leave you with these set of checks every time we look at a new position and we're trying to decide which is the best move before I come on to the analysis. So I'll have a quick scan of these checks up. They're all geared towards to help us decide what our game plan should be. You know, should we be racing? Should we stay back looking for contact? Should we be playing to improve our prime, or should we be looking at a blitz? How safe should we play safe, or should we say play bold? Yeah, I mean this series that we're on at the moment is safe versus bold, but these preliminary checks apply to most positions. You know, in the middle game especially. We'll be touching on some of these as we go through the different problems, but in the case of this series, obviously we'll be looking at safe versus bold on every problem. Let's have a quick run down this list. Excuse me. Cube strategy at the score. Well, most of our positions that we'll be covering will be unlimited games where or sort of a normal match score situation where it's 0-0 in a very long match. So our cube strategy is the same for all those positions. You know, it's a money game situation, more or less. Excuse me again. So but when we have a lopsided match score, you know, when we're 2 away from winning the match and our opponent is 9 away or something, or the other way around, then or other scores as well, we need to be conscious of how we should be, what our strategy should be with the cube. Should we be conservative with the cube, or should we be aggressive, you know, in terms of passing the cube, or in terms of taking the cube? So cube strategy at the score we should be conscious of when we're playing matches before we make a play, because every move, as I say, is a cube decision. Do we have cube access? You know, can we use the cube? It's a powerful weapon, and when we have cube access, our checker plays can be much different to when we don't. You know, when our opponent holds the cube, we tend to play more. We tend to play more aggressively. When we own the cube, we tend to be play to consolidate our position. If we're coming up to a situation where there's an efficient cube is imminent, we don't want to blow it by making a big play that can misfire. And then we come on to the regular item, scan the whole board. You know, before we once we roll the dice, or even before, we need to scan the board and see what situation we're in. You know, are we are we ahead in the race, behind in the race? Are we doing well on the priming? Are we doing well at priming, or is our position more suited to blitzing, and so on? How many men have we got back, etc. Of course, the next item, safe versus bold, we'll be going into that in some depth during this series. You know, very often when we have to make a safe versus bold assessment, you know, should we be playing safe or bold? And the last one is PBRC, which stands for Prime, Blitz, Race and Contact. As far as I know, this is something that's been developed by, and in common use now, been developed by the Danish player Mark Brockman Olsen, and it comes into excuse me, comes into play with cube decisions, and also with checker play decisions. We need to be aware of is our game is our current position suited to priming, or are we better off going for a blitz, or should we be defending against a potential blitz, or should we be splitting against a potential prime? Are we ahead in the race or behind in the race? Behind in the race, we should be looking for more contact. So all of these items lead into the game plan. We try to figure out what our game plan should be, and the game plan is on a move by move basis. It's not for the whole game, so it's our plan for the game from where we are now. Things can change drastically. We can, for instance, be slightly behind in the race and suddenly we roll a big double and bingo, we're ahead in the race. So we start playing a bit more conservatively and we don't need contact anymore. Okay, so we'll be seeing this. We've seen this board here with these items on, just to remind us what we should be thinking about every time we make almost every time we make a backgammon play. Okay, this is the first position on the Safe versus Bold series, position 1. Take your time, choose your play, and I'll be right back with the analysis. This is normal match score situation, 0-0 in a very long match. Okay, analysis coming up for Safe versus Bold position 1. Let's go back to Magriel's criteria. Load them up for position 1. There we are. These are the ones that we went through during the introduction for this same position, and we can see, no advanced anchor, no indication there. More inside points, well, one more, so we give that a score 1 for bold, 1B for bold. Blots in our opponent's home board, well, no, blue doesn't have any blots in her board, so that's no indication. More checkers back, we have 3 back, she has none back. That's a huge difference, so we give that more weight with 3 Bs for bold, and also we're behind in the race by a long way, 35 pips, so we give that 3 Bs for bold as well, and we finish up on the chart. Everything we've looked at points towards bold. We have nothing pointing towards safe, so a bold play is indicated. Next, we'll run the analysis on XG. There we are. The top 2 moves are top move 13, bring 2 down off the midpoint, 13 to 10, 13 to 9. Red is aiming to develop. Red is aiming to develop his prime here, and in readiness for when he does, hopefully from his point of view, eventually hit a blue checker. Wants to contain it. There's the final position. Position 2 is a similar idea, only in this case we're making the 3 point, which isn't the next best point we want to make, really. We want to make the 4 points, so that's probably why this one is and brings no more checkers, no more material down into the zone to make our prime, so it's probably why it's a little bit worse than bringing 2 down off the midpoint immediately. Let's have a look at my notes here. Okay, 3 checkers back. That's the biggest. That's the key feature of this position. 3 back versus none back. A huge difference. big bold indicator. And even though we have a much better structure at the front, and we're than blue does, but you know, we've got 3 checkers that haven't escaped. She hasn't. She escaped all her checkers. We're behind in the race, so that puts us at about a 40% underdog. You know, she's 60% favourite. We're 40% underdog. Safe versus bold criteria point towards a bold play. That means in this position we should lean toward offence and not be too concerned about defence. Shouldn't be thinking about making our opponents 5 points a defensive move. That would be a huge mistake. Let's have a look down here, see if we can find it. 24 to 20, 23 to 20. There it is. We'll put it on XGR plus to level up the playing field. So there it is. It's at least a triple blunder at minus 327 millipoints. So it would be a huge mistake to do that. Huge mistake. We should concentrate on our strengths and do a couple of good things. We can unstack our midpoint. We've got 5 on there at the moment, so we need to diversify those checkers. Unstack our midpoint, put more checkers into play, bring 2 builders down to extend or improve our prime. Top move 13 to 10, 13 to 9. Creates the best distribution here to make the point we next most want to make, and that's our 4 point. Our back checkers, as they are fine, well placed to catch a fly shot or a direct shot. Our opponent's going to have problem playing some of her big numbers. You know, leave us a shot more than likely. A problem if you do make our opponents 5 points with that 24 to 20, 23 to 20 move, is that we create a safe landing space behind our back checker. Let's look at that one again. All this space here behind our rearmost checker, and so some of our awkward numbers now that would have left a shot could then be played safely. Magriel tells us we should not prioritise safety in this position. Because we're behind in the race, we must have contact. Contact is more important. If we're going to win this game, we have to get a shot and hit it and contain it. That's the end of position 1.